Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today is going to be a bit of a variety show. I'll be working on all kinds of different trees. I'm going to start today by working on my fiddle-leaf fig, or my Ficus lyrata. It's a tall, slender tree. And my original intent was to grow this as a very large bonsai. I was in a nursery the other day and I saw a Ficus lyrata that had been styled with a canopy on top, all these multi-branches, but the trunk was still quite skinny on it, and I had a good look at it and I thought, well, you know, that's what this will look like in maybe 10 years from now. And I thought, I didn't really like it. It was okay, but I thought, I'm going to try something different. So it kind of gave me a glimpse of the future, and I didn't really like the future. So I'm going to change my mind on this tree. The Ficus lyrata has giant leaves on it, and they act like sails in the wind. And I can't keep it outside because whenever a wind comes up, it just tips the tree over, pot and all. So I'm thinking of changing my mind on this tree and shortening the trunk, and maybe trying a trunk with movement in it. Every other Ficus lyrata I've seen is just like a pole. And so I think I want to develop mine with taper and movement and try and see what I can make of this species. Luckily, I have a lower branch here. So if I do a trunk chop up here, I always have this backup lower branch that if the top dies down, doesn't sprout any new branches or foliage out from the trunk chop, I can always develop it from this lowest branch as my new leader. So that's kind of good. It's like a fairly safe trunk chop coming up. My only decision I have to make is what height do I cut the trunk down to? Now I do want taper, so the lower I go, probably the better. And I'm thinking I would like to develop that lowest branch as a possible trunk in future, but I'd like to trunk chop it and just see what happens in that area. So I'm thinking somewhere about there. That gives me enough trunk that if I want to develop a canopy on top, it'll have kind of a short, fat trunk eventually. I think that'll work. All right, let's get out the pruners and do this operation. After I do the trunk chop, I'm going to take the top of the tree and plant it as a cutting in this root maker pot and see if I can get it to root. So here I go. I'm going to pick a point on the tree. I'm thinking maybe even lower, maybe to here. All right, here I go. I'm just going to make a flat cut. Oops. Okay, here I go. Done. So that'll be a cutting. So this is what I'm left with. A trunk, a short trunk with a branch off to one side. So I'll see if any buds develop in this area, and maybe, you know, I'll get a short compact tree, and at least it won't blow over in the wind. Here's a look at the tree now. So you can see the base down there, a branch, and hopefully it'll get more branching on it in the future. I'll get the root maker pot filled with soil and plant the cutting. All right, in goes the soil. I'm going to plant the cutting fairly deeply in the pot. And if roots come out all over the trunk, well, that's fine. It'll look like aerial roots. So I'll put the tree in, and then I'll fill in the rest of the pot with soil. There's a little bit of leaf burn on here, but it's used to the outside now. The first outside leaves are forming on the tree. Around the far side here. Okay, that's looking good. Big changes for the Ficus lyrata today. I'll put them in the greenhouse and we'll get out the next project. My next project is my Nightshade Vine, and it's growing really well, and it's starting to flower up top here. The nightshade is a common weed around here. You can see the flower there. It's got a little bit of yellow on it, purple. Quite nice. It's fairly small, but at the base of the vine, There's all these suckers growing up that I need to prune back, and I've got a lot of weeds in here. I've got liverwort, Irish moss, everything I don't like. I would repot it, but just to get rid of this soil, which I don't think is very good. I'm sure it would be safe to repot it now. I think I will. It's just covered in liverwort, the surface of the soil. Makes it hard to water, and I got to deal with all these suckers, and I want to see what the roots are looking like. So I'm going to repot it and prune it today. When I first planted this vine, I didn't know what to expect. It's just a common weed, and sometimes they grow up your fence. So it kind of exceeded my expectations. It's starting to get a nice woody trunk and its character, and it flowers and it's small leaves. It's turned out pretty nice, I think. So I think I'm going to give it a better pot. The pot it's in right now is a plastic pot, and I think I'll try and find a nicer looking pot for it. The trunk on the vine is quite slim and skinny, so I can't use a deep pot. It just looks too heavy underneath it. The pot it's in right now is fairly shallow, and it's not too bad a size. It's maybe a little big. So I was trying out some different pots. That one's the right size, but it's way too deep. This one was just huge. It looked like, yeah, bathtub. I tried this one, but again, it's too deep for a slim tree coming out the top. And this one just didn't do anything. So I was thinking maybe this Aran pot I have that the Toronto Bonsai Society gave me. It's a really good quality pot, and I think it's about the right size for the tree, and it's an interesting pot, and I think this kind of color in the pot almost matches the color on the trunk here. So I think it's a pretty good match. I'm going to try it anyway. I was thinking more about the pot. The pot here is the perfect size if the vine was to go into a show as an accent plant, or someday maybe as its own bonsai. But I think it would hinder the development of the vine. I think it would not have enough roots to kind of grow the top out and thicken it all up. So I think it would be perfect for, you know, the ultimate refinement stage, but I think for development, I think it's too small, even though it would look really good, I think. So I'll save it for the future, and I think I'll just put it back in the same pot. Here's a shot of what it would kind of look like in the pot. It looks pretty good. It looks good, nice proportions, nice color. I think that's the pot for it someday. I've been thinking a lot about the repotting too, and I really like this little vine, and I hate to lose it by repotting it out of season, even though it, you know, these vines are tough. They'd probably survive, but I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to try cleaning up all the weeds on the surface. I'm going to start by pruning away all these suckers at the base of the vine. My next step is to prune it down back to size. I'll be pruning the flowers off, but it'll get lots more flowers by the end of summer. All right, here I go with the top pruning. I'm looking for leaves that fan outwards. I'll prune just above there. So I think right here. Here. I'm sure these would grow as cuttings, but you can find them all over the place. I'm going to go right here. And right. There. And here. And there's a little shoot out front here I can prune back to right here. There's a few growing tips here that I'll need to prune back also. I took off all the tall, vigorous shoots first, and now there's a few smaller branches that I'm just going to prune the tips off. Because if I don't prune those, they'll grow up really tall also, and I want to try and grow it out equally. So I'm looking for some outward facing leaves and pruning just above those. Like that. I've got another sucker at the root base here. Take that off. And another one here. Okay. Now I'm going to step back and have a look at the overall styling and see if I want to do any further corrections. I've got the tree on my spinning tree bonsai turntable, having a look at it, and I've got to decide, do I want to grow it as a broom style, or do I want to get some branch structure so there's some separation between the branches. Right now everything's kind of going upright, so I could clean it out a bit, simplify it. I think that's a nice kind of front there, isn't it? You can see the division of the trunk line there. Yeah, I think on some of these branches I have a lot of upright shoots. I'm wondering, maybe I should take those off, develop more shoots, kind of more horizontal shoots. It's hard to say if they'll get, you know, buds developing on the underside of the branch. Yeah, it's tough to say. It's a new species for me, so it's hard to kind of predict what'll happen. So in that case, I usually just try it on one branch first, and then you can kind of see what the reaction of the plant is. I think, you know, if this is the primary kind of line of the trunk, I've got a competing thicker branch back there that competes with that trunk line. It's definitely taking over. You can see in this view how much thicker this back branch is compared to the front one. So I think I got to correct that. I know I do. So I think I can take off that vertical section of it and just keep the more spreading branches. So I'll do that. Here I go. Like that. Yeah, so that cleaned that out nicely. I'm thinking I'm going to have to go shorter here. And shorter here. Like that. I've got a branch out the back here. I think I need to shorten also. So right here. It's too tall. Could go right down. Maybe I will. Yeah. I gotta take some vigor out of this branch too, so there's a leaf facing outwards here, so I can take it right back, and I will. Like that. You have to kind of plan for the future. I could even do the same thing here. I have a leaf here. I could take this branch right back. I will right here, like that. That'll knock some vigor out of that, and hopefully this part will thicken up a bit more. It will if I let it grow and get more leaves on it. I'm just going to take, there's a few back branches here, I'll just take those back a little further. I think that's got it sorted out for the future development. And I'll have to probably rotate that front view just a little bit to about here. So there's a little space between these two lowest branches, or upright trunks. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's going to grow well. This Irish moss or starweed gets horribly deep roots and creates a mat of roots on the surface of the soil that water has trouble getting through. And same with the liverwort, it creates this mat on top and it makes it really hard to water your trees. Now I'm going to try and get some of this liverwort out, and I think I'll just use my spatula and kind of run it across the soil surface and try and take a layer off, and then I'll top dress it with bonsai soil. So here goes a try. Wow, there's lots of roots in this soil. That's roots from the vine, not from the liverwort. So I can take out this top layer of soil and add more bonsai soil on top to top dress it. Alright, I think that's kind of got the liverwort out for the present moment. Tom from the YouTube channel Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors sent me another present, so thanks Tom. He sent me some Aquarium Gravel. It's Supernatural's premium aquarium substrate. And it's a really nice color. I'll show you a close-up of it. And I was thinking of using that for the top dressing on this tree. So here's what it looks like. And it's kind of a very natural color. It's and quite fine little stones. Kind of looks like the stones that wash up at the beach. So it's made by Caribsea. Yeah, so I'll give it a try. All right, I'll get the bag cut open. I'll just cut the corner off of here. Large enough to get my spoon in. There it is, and I'll put it on the surface here. Here's a look at the top dressing. So my hope is this will deter weeds from growing on the surface, like liverwort and Irish moss. So it'll be interesting to see how it performs. I have an old Chinese-made mudman from long ago, and I decided, well, I think that looks pretty good. It's like he's looking at a small tree, waiting for it to flower and fruit. The next tree I'll be working on today is my yellow flowering hibiscus. I pruned it really hard, and then it grew out again, and now it needs pruning once again. Often with hard pruning, the results are kind of unpredictable. And you can see here, there's a branch here that didn't get any foliage on it at all. There's one here, another stub here that didn't get any foliage. So it came out down low, and one off to the side here. There's another trunk I pruned off here. Nothing grew in that area. These two I pruned off, and I got a new shoot here. So it does reduce the tree down. It's just you've got to, readjust your styling to whatever grows in after hard pruning. And it's the same with a ficus or anything. You've got to sometimes prune them back really hard to get them back compact and to size, and then whatever grows out, then you have to work with it and recreate your branch structure. So that's what I'll be doing today. I'm going to start the pruning by pruning back these really tall, vigorous branches. So I'm looking for buds. I see a bud down here I could prune it back to, and I will. So just off here, like that. And then this is kind of my tallest apex. So I've got a bud here and one here, so I think I'll prune it back to here. To there. And then I've got some weaker growth here that also will need pruning. So I'll come in and prune it off, keeping 2 leaves. Maybe a few more on here. And onto there. I think that's pretty well got it. So now I've got to come in and clean up all the parts of the tree that aren't growing. Noah from the KW Club emailed me, and he wanted some hibiscus cuttings, so I'm going to take the leaves off and try growing these as cuttings. So there's one cutting, and I'll do the same for the top part here. There's some old flower stems. Take those off too. Take the leaves off. I'll just leave the leaves on top like that. So there's another cutting, that's 2, and we'll do a third one here. This will be a slightly taller one. Maybe that's too tall. I have to fit this in my greenhouse. I better reduce it back a bit. I'll divide it into 2 cuttings. I'll take one here, and then this one as a cutting. So I'll place that in my seed tray inside the greenhouse and see if I can get them to root. All right, in the soil they go. So I'll just find a spot over here, like that. I'll put one in here. I don't think that ficus made it, this one, so I'll plant some around that area. One there, and one back here. Yeah, you never know if they'll take or not, but giving it a shot. On the hibiscus here, I want to see if there's any life in these branch stubs. So I'm going to scratch the surface and see if there's any green underneath. So here I go. I'll just do it right on top here. There is. So it is possible they could get, you know, new buds popping out on these branches. So I'll just leave them be for now. Until they wither away and dry up, I'll leave them on the tree. You never know. So the little bunnies here, the ducks, and the frog can all sit and watch the tree grow. My next project is this climbing aloe. In the last video on this tree, I pruned the branches back for the first time, and I wasn't sure how they would react. But they reacted quite well. You can see there's a cut here, and it grew a new side branch up. There was a cut in here, and it also grew 2 new side branches. So it seems to respond really well to pruning. I think this is Aloe ciliaris, I think is the scientific name for it. I also had decided to leave these dead leaves on. I thought they looked like the Black Pearl in Pirates of the Caribbean. Kind of like, I don't know, ancient, and I thought it was a nice contrast, the green against the old leaves. So I'm going to leave them on. I'm going to try that idea out on this aloe. So today I just want to prune it back, getting it kind of back to shape. My first step, I need to find a front for this plant. So I'm going to rotate it around. There's lots of aerial roots in here. I think this has to be the back because it has a trunk that kind of crosses the main thickest trunk. Yeah, I think somewhere around here is the front. I've got one branch coming off the trunk that goes up the middle, which is this back one here. So I kind of want that to be the highest point on the plant. And it's kind of leaning back towards this way. It's a tough styling challenge, this. Well, I'll start by pruning some of these, you know, smaller branches back down in size. Now keeping, here's an outward facing leaf, so I'll prune just above that, like that. And these would probably grow as cuttings also. There's one here. I think I'll want to prune it back to here. Taking that back. There's one back here. I can take the top off of it. That really should be shorter. I'm going to have to go right back. I'm going to go right back to here. There's another shorter or a smaller branch back here that I want to grow kind of in this direction, so I'll take it off here. Now I've got a branch here I could take off shorter, and I will, like that. And one back here. Take it off here. And one here. I'll take it off here. This one to here. So all that's left now is the 2 branches coming off the thickest part of the trunk. So I got to decide how I want to style that. You know, if I want to feature this horizontal, almost cascading branch as a feature, or do I want to cut it back to a more vertical, upright style and lose all this kind of hanging deadwood, or not deadwood, dead leaves? Well, I'm going to prune this one back, this tall one. I'm going to prune it back to here, to a leaf facing kind of this direction towards the viewer. like that. I've got to decide what to do about this branch. I kind of like it, but it doesn't really suit this clump style. I think I'll just keep this in mind for the future, that this, you know, is possible on this clump style eventually. Maybe all these branches will fan out and I can have all these dead leaves hanging off of it. But for now, I've got to prune it back and get something growing up more upright. It just doesn't suit the style of the tree. Unless I, you know, took out all the other branches and just left a single kind of trunk line, but I don't think that would look very good with this aloe. So I'm going to do a bit of a hard prune here. There's an aerial root growing off of it right there. I think I'm going to have to lose my aerial root. So I'm going to take it right back to here. So here I go. Like that. There's my aerial root. I'll definitely plant this as a cutting. So there, my clump style's kind of restored, and I still have some hanging dead leaves, which I think looks cool. I think that would be my front somewhere around there. The last tree I'll be working on today before updates is my Paperbark Birch, and I've noticed ants crawling up it. So I was looking under the leaves and I found aphids, and lots of them. If you look under here, let me try and zoom in. You can see the ants milking the aphids for their excretions. Let's see if I can get closer. There. So I'm going to cut those leaves off and dispose of them. I'll prune off the leaves with the aphids and put them in this bucket of soapy water here. So here I go. Two. There's a few more up top here. I think that's got rid of like almost all the aphids. I think that's got the insect problem in check. I'm going to give the tree a prune, so I'm just going to prune back the soft growth. If you prune into the hardwood on a birch, if it doesn't heal within a season, it'll start rotting out and you may lose that branch, or it might rot down the trunk and you might lose the tree eventually. So you've really got to keep the pruning to a minimum, something that, you know, prune off just a small amount so it can heal that season. So I would say you wouldn't want to prune anything thicker than maybe your baby finger. Maybe not even that thick, maybe half the width of your baby finger. So I'm going to prune these branches back here. All right, that's got all these soft growth pruned back on the tree. Now I've got to look at it and decide what do I want to keep and what do I want to get rid of. I have a leader coming out the front here, so I could reduce the trunk back to here. It's getting quite thick, but I think that would heal this summer and it wouldn't cause any problems. I already took it off here once and that healed over really nicely and grew a new branch up. So I think I'm safe to take it off to this point. So I'll do that. This will reduce the tree quite a bit. So here I go. Now, I'm going to prune it off high and allow it to die back. Like that. So I've left a stub here. I'll want to reduce this one back also. And again, I'll leave a stub like that. There's a yellow leaf I'll take off here. And I think the rest are okay. I think I'm going to leave it like that for today. I would put Birch Bonsai in the same classification as Willow Bonsai. They're kind of a difficult tree to make into a bonsai, but it can be done through perseverance. Branches tend to die off, things rot, sometimes you lose the tree. It's, yeah, don't fall in love with it, but they're a fantastic tree to grow on your bench. You may get lucky and develop it into a mature bonsai. I've completed the bonsai work for today, so let's go inside the greenhouse, check on the seeds, and see what's popping up. Oh, it's nice and warm in here. So here's the aloe cuttings. I planted them in the seed tray that had the nuts because I don't have too much hope that those nuts are going to grow, but I think the aloes will. So over here Let's check in on the Jerusalem thorn trees again. So you can see they're starting to get their leaves. They're kind of compound leaves here, which is pretty exciting. And more of them popped up. I think there's 19 of them now. So that's pretty cool. The only other sign of life over in my hornbeam seed tray, I have a hornbeam coming up. There's one there. Over here, remember that maple key? Well, that's coming up. I thought that would. So that's coming up too. And that's it. That's the only signs of life. There's a few weeds growing in my sequoia seed tray. But yeah, no sequoia trees yet. So I've still got hope. I'm still hoping something comes up. My Brazilian rain tree that I root pruned and repotted the other day is in the greenhouse, and the leaves have stayed closed. They're kind of conserving, you know, the evaporation, conserving the water in the tree until the roots get established. So once those leaves unfold in the daytime, I'll know the tree is on the road to recovery. But right now they're staying folded up. The new needles on my Austrian pine have just about matured. You can see now there's very little difference between the new needles and the old needles as far as color and texture. They're stiff and kind of pointy and sharp. They're not soft anymore. So I think that'll be a project coming up where I'll have to come into the canopy and do some thinning. Some of these branches are so dense you can't even see anything. You know, there's no branch structure. It's just a mass of needles. So yeah, I do want to grow the tree. So I do want to leave a lot of needle density on it, but I don't want to shade out buds, potential buds developing on the branches. The trunk is definitely growing. It's getting thicker down here. So that's exciting. The needles on my Scots pine here, they're almost mature. They're still kind of soft, and there's still a bit of a light green color to them. So I think in another few weeks they'll kind of get the mature color, and they'll become not so flexible, and they'll be a little sharper on the tips. So that's got a ways to go before I can come in and prune it. So that'll be exciting, pruning it all back. My Schefflera clump style has the new outdoor leaves growing now. You can see the brighter green color ones all over the tree. So that's exciting. The darker ones here are the indoor leaves that grew over the winter. So that's coming along nicely. And I'm hoping to get this repotted this summer too. Over in the corner here, I have my Portulacaria afroforest. I'm just letting it grow, and I always let it grow to the point where, you know, all these branches start drooping and it just becomes unmanageable. So I've still got a ways to go. You can see on the shoots it's getting all the sub-branching, and they'll come out and it'll get a lot of foliage, a lot of energy in the tree, and then I'll prune it back hard. So that'll be exciting doing that too. My Scottish thistle is doing well here. Did you know the leaves are edible on these? I've tried them. You just take the leaf off a mature one, or even a younger one, and you cut off all the spikes with the scissors, and they taste like lettuce. They're amazing. Jonathan gave me a whole bunch of larch trees last fall, and the rabbits pruned them over the winter quite severely on some of the trees, and some didn't make it. So this is my pile of ones that didn't make it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 didn't make it, which, you know, is pretty good considering the rabbits did it. So I've moved all the ones that did make it over to the bench in the sunshine here now. So I've got, this one looks really healthy. That one looks really good. This one is struggling, but it's alive. Over here I've got a tall one that is also struggling, but it's doing okay. I think that one's okay. This one's struggling a bit. This one's doing fine. This one's still got a bit of green on it. Same with this one, and this one. But they don't look very good, those. But hopefully in the sun here, I'll water them regularly and hopefully they'll perk up. That brings us to the end of the video, so that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.